All right, welcome to the next episode of FieroCast. This is a very exciting episode. We're going to chat with the folks that are part of the Midwest Fiero clubs. Some are the founding chapters. Some are members that have joined for the love of the Fiero that are also part of their local chapters, and a couple young Fiero owners that have just started getting into the Fiero, and how the Midwest Fiero clubs has brought them together and changed their life back at the 35th anniversary show. All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody, and our guests today we have a lot. So we've got Rob from the Minnesota Fieros Forever, Fred Bartemeyer from Heartland Fieros, Jim Hallman from the Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts, Mark Nicholas, also from Iowa, Jen Goss from the Mid-Atlantic Fieros Owners Association. We have Larkin and from Iowa. We have Christina Kahn from Michigan, Jason Fowley from Minnesota, and Tom Schmidt from Wisconsin. So welcome, and this is going to be a very, very informational podcast on the Midwest Fiero clubs. But where can you find us? You can find us at FieroFocus.com, on our YouTube channel, at N.I.F.E Club on Facebook, and at Fiorama on Facebook. So without further ado, let's chat about the Midwest Fiero clubs. All right, welcome to the next episode of FieroCast. Excited about this one tonight. We're going to talk to the group of the Midwest Fiero clubs. So let's get right to it. How and when and why was the Midwest Fiero clubs formed? Open forum, so anybody could chat if you want.
Okay, all right. I'll start out. It says, so why the Midwest Fiero clubs was originally created was to prevent overlapping of all of the Fiero Club events that were taking place in the Midwest. We had events or clubs that were located in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, Kansas City, St. Louis, Missouri, Michigan, and we were all having events typically over the summer months, starting in May and going through September. And just to kind of organize those events, we decided to form the Midwest Fiero clubs to help promote each of these club events within our own clubs, as well as trying to, again, prevent the overlapping so that the dates weren't on the same, on the same calendar day for each of the events, that they were all on different days, so that theoretically you could plan to attend all of the events throughout the summertime.
So was it more of a show circuit at the time, or was it just a here is a schedule of the events that are happening during the year?
Well, we started out as a promotional tool for all of the different Fiero shows, but eventually we came up with the idea of having a promotion.
What year did everything start?
Looking back at the calendar here, it looks like we believe it was sometime in February. February of 2004, I think, was our first meeting. It was held in Chicago, and we had the representatives from, I believe, Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin, I think, were just the first group.
Has it grown since then?
The number of clubs? Yeah. The initial full organization was Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, Kentucky, Indiana, Minnesota, Michigan, and then Iowa, Nebraska area. Those were like the initial groupings, and then it's expanded from there to include the Mid-Atlantic Fiero Club, and we're looking to gather other Fiero clubs into the fold.
What's the kind of like the main mission of the Midwest Fiero clubs back then, and what you guys see it as now?
Yeah, so I would say the original one back then, looking at one of our old brochures, was really just to celebrate the Pontiac Fiero. And the motto way back then was relive the excitement. The purpose, again, was to combine the resources of the Midwest area Fiero clubs, promote regional events, and then celebrate the 25th anniversary of the 1984 Pontiac Fiero. And that, again, was back in 2000. Actually, that was in 2009, so back in 2004 would have been celebrating the 20th anniversary of the 1984 Fiero.
Our current mission statement is the Midwest Fiero Clubs is a dedicated group of enthusiasts whose passion is to promote and preserve the Pontiac Fiero and the Fiero community.
Yeah, that has a nice ring to it now versus what started off, because if you look at the Midwest Fiero Clubs organization, we're all here to help each organization as a community. Plus, I mean, we also volunteer, and this is part of our lives now, too.
Yes, it's very much part of our lifestyle.
Yep.
How can one join the Midwest Fiero Clubs? Or is it not that type of organization that you would actually join?
As far as clubs go, if a Fiero club would be interested in the Midwest Fiero Clubs, they can inquire with us and we can explain to them how our organization is structured and organized. An individual to join the Midwest Fiero Clubs would be required to be an AACA member initially, and then at that point we can add their name to our Midwest Fiero Clubs roster.
As a group or as an individual?
As an individual.
Okay. How, I know we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but you brought up a good point about the AACA. How does one join that organization? Can we go through each individual club? Do we have to go through the Midwest Fiero Clubs in order to join? How does that work?
Any individual can join through the national website or sending in a paper form that they print off of the website at aaca.org. And at that point, their membership is valid with the national, and that makes you eligible to join any AACA sanctioned region. And the Midwest Fiero Clubs is a official sanctioned region of the AACA.
Yeah, and the AACA has a great library, history.
Yes. They just moved into their new building this past weekend, and they're literally moving semis of automotive material from the old building to the new building.
Wow. Very cool.
And you don't even need to own a car to join. You just have an interest.
Yeah. I got involved with or hearing about the AACA joining, and back when my grandfather had his two Model Ts, he was part of the AACA, and I was too young to kind of know what was going on back then, but knowing and seeing what they do, it's a great organization, great thing to be a part of too.
Yeah, for a car enthusiast to go to the meets and be around all of these cars through the decades, from the beginning of automotive history to next year will be 1996 model year will be eligible for class judging, to look at the evolution of the automobile and being able to be in the presence of some of these rare automobiles is just a thing that you've got to experience if you're a car enthusiast.
Yeah, and that's that they're still in Hershey, correct?
The headquarters is in Hershey, yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, they just moved into their brand new headquarters building that has just recently been finished.
And not to break away from this, but you had the pace car displayed there for a while as well.
Oh, it was at the former AACA Museum, which is a complete separate entity
Okay.
of the AACA. And that is a deep subject that we don't have enough time for. But unfortunately, the two organizations have split, and neither are affiliated with each other anymore.
Well, getting back to, thank you for that information. That was very, very helpful. Getting back to the Midwest end of it, since the inception of the Midwest Fiero Clubs back in 2004, can somebody tell me more about and explain what the competition best in the Midwest is? And that started back in 04 and still continues to this day.
Well, our initial concept there was to involve all of the participating Fiero clubs to get them involved in a common goal and get the people of each individual club involved in competing with their cars and use it as a promotional tool to bring the Midwest Fiero clubs to the forefront of organizing all of the Fiero events.
Is there a competition held as far as individual clubs versus a national or a one organization that holds the annual?
Well,
best
traditionally in the past, each club has a show for their local locality, and the Midwest Fiero Club sends them a award in which they individually decide which car is going to win that award, and then at the end of the year, we offer each winner to come to Chicago to the Fiorama to culminate all the winners, and then we vote on the overall winner of the entire field.
Is each year I'm assuming there's a different theme or a different topic that's brought up as far as what your competition for the year is going to be. What have some of the bigger competitions been? I know back in 2019 we had female-owned Fieros, which drew a very big crowd. Jim, I think you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the largest turnout of competitors at Fiorama. But would you consider that the biggest turnout of what themed has gone through since 04?
I think that was the largest, if not one of the largest. I know the first couple of years we did this back in 2004. When it was the Best Original 84, we had a good gathering as well. And then for 2005, we entitled it, I found some notes today, it was the Quest for the Best 85. So I know in the beginning, the first several years, we were kind of celebrating the 20th anniversary of each model year from 84, 85, 86, 87, and 88. And then after we went through that 20-year series, that's when we started opening it up to different kind of competitions for, best interior, best modifications, best, rebody. We just did a whole bunch of different series after that just to kind of keep the excitement alive. And it kind of, looking back, it kind of brings unity to the Midwest Fiero clubs. And what I mean by that is that, each show gets to select their one car that meets the criteria for that particular year. And then at the end of the car show season in September, all of these cars get to compete for the best in the Midwest competition. So it's kind of a neat way to kind of unite all of the different Fiero clubs in our area and all the different Fiero clubs that are part of the Midwest Fiero clubs to have this competition at the end of the year, and then kind of designate a winner for the best in the Midwest.
You know, the nice thing about that too is you get to see cars that you don't get to see on a yearly basis. So you get to see cars coming in from different parts of the Midwest too, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and also by varying the competition away from just originals like the best modified or the best modification, it kind of brings a family back together. You know, that just because you don't have a perfect original car doesn't mean you can't participate and win one of these competitions. You could have an unfinished car with a really unique modification that could win the best modification that year. So it gives everyone a chance to participate in something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there, so over the years, you've had multiple winners from 04 to 2019. Is there, maybe this is kind of more geared towards Rob, is there a winner circle, or is there a place that people can kind of view what has taken the best in the Midwest over the past couple of years?
Yeah, we do actually on our website have a page that showcases all the winners of the best in the Midwest from 2004 through 2019. It's easy to find at midwestfieroclubs.aaca.com, and just navigate to the promotions and best in the Midwest. There's a brief description kind of talking about the awards that we do, and then year by year it steps backwards through the recent winners, and there's a photo and sometimes a brief description of the vehicles. And
there are a wide range of winners, from stock to modified to heavily modified. I think we got the Lambiro in there as well in one of them. Yeah, it's a lot of variety. As Jim had mentioned, the first few years, we did kind of the best original for each year and model of the car. Then we stepped through the best non-stock, the most innovative ideas, and then we switched gears to what we referred to as the best interpretation of a car, where we would pick a select model such as a 84 pace car and look for the best interpretation, meaning that it could be an original stock vehicle or it could be something that's totally modified. For example, our 2015 winner was Jeff and Carol Wendt with the Stinger, which was considered the best interpretation of an 87 coupe. For anybody that's not familiar with the Stinger, it's a chop top LT1 powered Archie creation. There's not a whole lot of 87 coupe left in that, but it fit exactly the uniqueness and the profile of interpreting what that car could become.
And I remember when we were first coming up with that terminology, because we wanted to, as Rob was saying, we started out with the best original or the best stock cars, and then we wanted to not leave out the custom cars. And we went back and forth, gosh, for quite some time, just trying to come up with that proper wording. And once we hit best interpretation, that just kind of opened up the doors, as far as it could really be anything. I mean, it could be just a custom paint job or something, or it could be totally custom wheels, interior, engine, paint. I mean, it just kind of really opened up the doors as far as what could be competing against one another. So it brought a lot of excitement, and still does, I think.
And our later promotions have been somewhat focusing on the personalities and the people who own the Fieros. So it took a different twist within the last few promotions.
Yeah, and I'm looking on the site right now, and there's one that kind of stands out. In 2014, you had the best interpretation of a 1986 and a half GT. Why not just an 86? What's with an 86 and a half GT?
The reason for that selection was similar to the other years, where we looked at the year to try to figure out what was the unique model for that year. In 84, it was the Indy. 85, it was the GT. Those were the first year that V6 GT was offered. And then in 86.5 was the release of the Fastback. So that in itself was unique to the 86 model year, followed then by the 87 Coupe and the 88 Formula as well. So it was just a way of selecting a specific model within that year to kind of narrow the focus a little bit.
Mhm.
But the
And
86
also-
and a half came about because at the beginning of the model year in 1986, you couldn't order a new 1986 GT. That didn't become available until I believe around January, when the Fastback GT model was then ready to be unleashed to the public. And so that's why it's called an 86 and a half, because it was a mid-model year introduction.
Mhm.
Yeah, the original sales brochures for 1986 did not include the GT model.
Interesting.
So the 86 and a halves weren't the 5 speeds versus the 4
No.
speeds. That was what I always thought. Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
The half came from the simple fact that the GT fastbacks were not available at the beginning of the 1986 model year introduction, which would have been August of 1985. And the brochures to the GTs were not sent out to the dealerships until November.
So then the original 86 and a half GT fastbacks, when they came out, were offered in automatic or 4-speed.
Yep.
And the 5-speed Getrag was introduced around
June.
end of May, June, somewhere right in there.
Yep, there was 3 months of 5-speed production before the next model year production started.
So, everybody that's listening, this is why you got to love the Midwest Fiero Clubs, because just the knowledge that this group has on the Fiero is extraordinary. So, next question I got is so you shifted in 2017 from Fieros to the Fiero Interior. Was that a choice made easily, or what was the decision behind that to kind of shift away from the body style, the best interpretation, to an interior?
I think that the main reason for that was because we had exhausted the series from 84, 85, 86, 87, and 88, and then it was time to do just a one year off, so to speak, because we had the 2018 was going to be the 35th anniversary, and generally during that anniversary year, we don't hold the each individual competition for the best in the Midwest. So we just needed a 1 year filler, and we figured we hadn't done anything with the interior at that point. So that was kind of the whole basis behind doing that. And the other interesting thing is looking at all these winners on the website. The reason we chose, as Rob was alluding to, we had the 84 Indy. We were trying to come up with ways to educate the Fiero community about certain things that were different about each model year. As we mentioned, 84 had the Indy Pace car, was a special model. 85 was the first year for the GT notchback body style. So, as we were promoting these things, we were educating the community as far as why this year, back in 2012, we chose the 1985 GT to be the competition car that year. And then same thing in 86, 87, and 88. So it kind of brought an educational basis to the Fiero shows, so that people understood, or we were able to convey the information as far as why each of these cars was chosen for the best interpretation competition.
We know how hard it is to find Fiero parts. We also know that as years go by, finding parts isn't going to get any easier. The big box stores will never make new Fiero parts because our community is just too small. This is why we need to support the companies that support us. For nearly 30 years, the Fiero store has sponsored our club events, provided free technical support, and produced well over 150 exclusive parts that no big box store would even consider. So, Next time you need Fiero parts, head over to thefierostore.com and browse through thousands of products that are specifically designed for your Fiero. That's fierostore.com, the world's largest source of Fiero parts.
Proudly point out that 2017 was the first year that the East got involved, and we sent Nate Williams out for being the best interior winner at Carlisle to capture the awards. So
That's right. The Midwest Fiero clubs that expanded out east. So yeah, that was exciting too. It brought to Fiorama, the Chicago area, a car that not a lot of people would have seen if nobody had gone out to Carlisle too. So we get to see what's going on the East Coast too. What
Yeah,
go ahead,
that
Fred.
whole event helped us realize that the potential for the Midwest Fiero clubs expanding outside of the Midwest was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
By drawing that quality of car from out of the area, it was kind of an eye-opening situation to have Nate come to our event.
So what do we have to look forward to? I know 2020 was kind of a stall year, but what do we have to look forward to as far as going into 2021, as far as the competition?
Well, we
Best in the
have a
Midwest
promotion ready to go to recognize the younger members of the Fiero community. And the purpose of it is to entice our younger owners to participate with the Fiero shows and within the Fiero community and with the Midwest Fiero clubs.
Yeah, that brings up a good point too. Supporting the Fiero community and local organizations. We've got, I'm going to kind of put a couple people on the spot here. We've got Christina Kahn, Larkin, and Tom Schmidt. If you guys want to jump in here, what have you guys overall? I know Christina and Larkin are newer to the Midwest Fiero clubs. Tom has been with the Midwest Fiero Club since the inception. Do you guys have any thoughts or anything on the Midwest Fiero Clubs?
I've actually been in the group since about 2017. I've already had 3 Fieros in that time. Currently have 2, but it is the most welcoming group of people I've ever met in my life, and I've been in quite a few different car communities. And the shows and the events and everything that they put together is just incredible, especially for the amount of Fieros left. You know, there's not a huge, community for them compared to a lot of other cars. It's somewhat of a niche community, so it's very nice to be able to have a community that's like that. And no matter where you go in the country, I went to Carlisle with a couple of younger friends. Christina was one of those included, and they were just as welcoming out there as they would be if I went to the Heartland show here in Iowa. So if there's any younger people out there that haven't been to a show or doesn't really know what the Midwest Fiero Clubs is about, I would heavily suggest that they come out even just once. And there's no possible way they would feel left out, because I remember the first time I went was at the Heartland Fiero show in 2017, and I still talk with a lot of people that I met there. One of those people including Rob. So
It was a fun one.
Yeah, that was a blur, wasn't it?
I think, Mike, that Larkin also brings up a great point to segue in that although we are a non-geographical region of the AACA, we welcome, all kinds of Fieros. They don't need to be pristine stock cars, heavily modified Fieros, as you've seen from our discussion of the awards that we've offered through the years in the Best in the Midwest are just as welcome. But we also are able to support the heritage of our hobby too through that connection.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And Larkin's point also exemplifies that we love to have all types of people in our group, and the diversity is kind of neat when we go to our meets. You meet all kinds of people from all over the country, and you get a different perspective on what the hobby means to different people.
Mm-hmm. Christina or Tom, do you have any open comments?
So I definitely agree a lot with Larkin, with what Larkin is saying. And I've discussed with a few of you how I have parents who want to move out of Michigan and go west or south. And basically I could go with them, stay here, whatever. It's still up in the air. But either way, the whole Midwest Fiero Club, it's like a huge reason for me to not go anywhere. Like, it's a big part of my life. And if I went anywhere, like, west or south, there's a couple clubs, but there's nothing like they have up here. Like, I know they have a Daytona show in Florida, but it's just not the same, where that'd be your one show all year, where up here, like, I went to Carlisle this year, and then I went out to the Pontiac show in September, and even though it was 8 hours to Carlisle, it still is relatively close, and I had such a great time with Larkin and everybody. And it's just nice having the opportunities to meet everybody, and everybody's very welcoming.
It's great to
hear. It's been a lot of fun.
Back to that point you were talking about before, Mike, I'm going to be 84 years old now. And with my car, which is called the Rattler, as everybody knows, I try to promote the AACA with my stickers on the car, with the AACA stickers, as well as Midwest Fiero Clubs, to all the young kids that are out there that like to look at my car, and I let them use my helmet and take pictures of my car to kind of promote the youth portion of this thing. As I grow older, I find that the more youth we can get into this organization is going to survive a lot longer than I'll be around. So that's my contribution to trying to keep the Fiero community alive. And I just thought I'd just throw that in a little bit for you.
So again, with the supporting of the Fiero community, and I'm going to kind of pin this one on Jason, Fred, and Rob. The support that the Fiero community has given to many groups and stuff, the big one that stands out is the Tyler Shipman show. Can you guys fill us in on how that show and how the Midwest Fiero Clubs supports that show?
Well, first off, the event itself, the Tyler Shipman build, for the people that went to it and helped build the car, it was kind of a life-changing situation and experience. It was never expected to turn out that way, but it solidified some very strong friendships and relationships, that last till today. And it's kind of embedded in a lot of our hearts to support that, just because of what happened on that day. And currently, the Midwest Fiero Clubs supports promotion of the event, and we actually contribute monetary funds to sponsor the Tyler Shipman annual show.
You've been with the organization since 2004. How have you seen it change over the years?
Well,
like, as far as from the older generation that had the Fieros back then to the younger generation now.
Well, I think what happened, I'm a charter member of the organization. Fred and I and Tom Bajemski and a few others got together, along with Rob and Kevin and everybody, to do this thing. And over the years, I have found basically that as some of the younger kids got into the thing, as far as creativity on automobiles, like Fieros and what have you, and some of them like the stock versions of them. And I think that the combination of the two will enhance the younger people to either keep a stock car stock or maybe non-stock. It's up to them, but I think over the years that I've done all these shows around the Midwest and who knows where, I just find that the enthusiasm with the younger kids looking at a Fiero is what makes me happy. And I think if I can project that same image by showing my car as much as possible to enhance their ability to maybe get one on their own and promote that part of the organization, that's what I'm going to keep doing as long as I'm able to.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
Excellent perception there, Tom. That
Yeah.
was a good speech there.
Shifting back to supporting special events and stuff. So going back to the Tyler show, so the Midwest, even though we support all organizations, these ones have a special meaning to the Midwest as well. You got the Tyler Shipman show. So I know if Rob or Jason want to jump in on that. And then the other one is we also support the Pontiac Oakland Pontiac show. We just had that back in September. And then any other shows that the Midwest Fiero Clubs supports in a way that kind of, I don't want to say sponsor, but makes a strong donation towards.
Well,
I think. Go ahead,
this is
Jason.
Yeah, I mean, between Fred and myself, I met Fred at the Tyler Shipman, the build of Tyler's car. And like he was saying, that relationship got started there. And because we're all from various clubs across the country, we've been involved in different things in our own state, and then bring that back to the Midwest Fiero Clubs, and kind of we're all tied together, sharing everything from our own Fiero lives, I guess you'd say. So some events like that get there's a personal background to it that fuels you. But yeah, other than that, any of the other shows that we promote and events are either local to one of the clubs or involved in promoting the Fiero and the Fiero community in general.
For some reason, the Tyler Shipman show has promoted a camaraderie of friendships that hasn't really been matched with some of the other events.
Well, there's a big history up there too with that. And
the way that we can explain it is to have a person come on out, spend the weekend with us, and then everybody understands. Because it's something you can't really explain other than the aspect that it's kind of a special place, and the whole meaning and the reason for being there is special. And as everybody has said, the friendships that have been gained out of that particular event is spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
It also goes back to the heyday of Pennock's Fiero Forum, because I didn't even know Fred's real name, I don't think, until I knew his screen name.
You were going to say something, Rob, earlier?
I think Jason pretty well covered it, but I think it just largely, and Fred as well, that the Shipman show is really about a greater community and the family of Fiero people that it created. It's not, you go to some shows, it's about the trophies, it's about the cars, it's about what you see, but the Shipman show is about the experience and the people, and how we interact with other people and how we touch other people's lives. It's a totally different environment that way.
Yeah.
And if anybody doesn't know, look up the Tyler Shipman Memorial Car Show.com and look at the history and what started it. So we just had the 10th annual Memorial Car Show last year. And then this draws my attention to what happened this year over at the Mid-Atlantic Club. There's a Facebook event called Make 2020 Better, and they did something very similar for a kid that had a cancer diagnosis this year.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on that, Jen, a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we were contacted by a club member who has a business, Pick Art Performance, and he knew that Matt and I were in possession of an 88 donor car that we had planned to share some parts with him on. And through another club member, this young man, Colin, had picked up a transmission for what he thought was the only thing wrong with his car. And when he took it in to get it worked on so that he'd have a car to be able to drive back and forth to treatments, because his Fiero is his only vehicle, he found out that his frame and cradle had significant rust issues, and the shop didn't believe that the car could be saved. So through a network of members, we all worked together to basically take and rebuild his car on a solid frame over a long weekend. And we ended up with supporters from across the country that donated parts and supplies and funds, including many members of Midwest Fiero clubs, the Tyler Shipman Memorial Car Show Fund, and we were able to make 2020 better for somebody, because we all know it hasn't been a great year. And, truthfully, like you all said, with the Tyler build, you spend a weekend with these people and you forge a bond. There were a total of 28 volunteers throughout the weekend that in some way, shape, or form touched the project. We had 53 supporters from across the country. And, just seeing his face light up when he saw, not only the fact that we had, put his car on a good frame, but we were able to paint the entire vehicle, upgrade his suspension, and do some other kind of dream wishes that he had for the vehicle, was just amazing. And I mean, people came in from the Midwest. Greg Cox came from Michigan. We had other people that came from New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and Western Pennsylvania to all, collaborate for this long weekend just to help out a member of our community. And that's really what this is all about. It's a community, and it's one that I think we're all really fortunate to be a part of.
And Jen touched on something that with the Tyler build, seeing Tyler wheeled out in a wheelchair to the car after we finished it, and seeing him get up out of that wheelchair and walk to the car and get in it and drive it away was worth its weight in gold. That kid's face was so bright. He just beamed from ear to ear to know that was his car. On May 19th, Michigan experienced some record rainfall, and it resulted in what they were terming as a 500-year flood. And the result of it was they had a dam breach upriver from Sanford, Michigan, and essentially a 8-foot wall of water came flooding down the Tittabawassee River and pretty much annihilated downtown Sanford, Michigan. So unfortunately, Tim Evans' building, Fiero's Forever, was in downtown Sanford. And the result of it was he had an 8-foot wall of water come through his building, pretty much washed out everything that was in it and damaged the building beyond repair. So with that sad news coming over the news feeds, the Fiero community had shown some support for ways that they could help out Tim. And therefore, Jen Goss had come up with the idea of the Midwest Fiero clubs doing a charity auction for the benefit of Tim to pick up some of the costs that may not be covered by insurance or any other compensation that may have been available at the time. So Jen set up the charity auction and solicited for donations. Jen, you want to add on what you did to administer it?
Yeah, so we set up a Google site and utilized Google Forms to power the auction, and it was incredibly well attended. We had over 60 bids from various individuals around the country. Some were even bidding to buy back their donated items in order to raise money for Tim. And they were absolutely generous in, getting us up and started with the auction and then following all the way through. We had many individual members of the Fiero community donate. We also had some Fiero businesses that many of us frequently buy from that also donated, like Mr. Mike's and the Fiero store and Daniel Potvin, Tim Box, Red Devil River was also a donor. Matt Meyer donated one of his brand new 3D printed skeletons, which was a really sought after item. And we were able to bring together $2,500 in donations for Tim and his wife to help them get back on their feet. Because although there was some support from insurance can take a while to come in, and the costs of cleanup were immense. And we wanted to be able to help them get through the summer and to take care of what they needed to take care of. So really grateful to all of the individuals, the Midwest Fiero clubs, affiliated clubs that participated, and businesses like the Fiero businesses mentioned. And also new Fiero owner Scott Peace donated some goodies from his Taste of Heaven business. So that was really cool as well.
One thing with Tim is Tim has spent a lot of his personal resources to attempt to accumulate one model of every Fiero that was built. And through his quest to do so, he had everything at his building with the exception of 2 cars. So with that in mind, I understand the passion that it takes to try to support an effort like that. And when this all happened, one of my first conversations with Tim was that the insurance company basically told him that they were going to give him NADA book value for the cars. And naturally, that's just pennies on the dollar compared to what the cars are legitimately worth. So with that in mind, I kind of took it as a personal project to help Tim write proper evaluations of the 20 Fieros that were affected. And I wrote out appraisals for each one and sent them to him. And I helped him with the terminology required to battle the insurance company in the event that they had to take the claim further than just the evaluations. So I sent him the appraisals. I talked to one of Tim's friends who is a dealer in the area, a local Ford dealership, and the combination of my testimony and my background and my appraisals and this other gentleman's help for on-site assistance allowed the insurance companies to realize that if they didn't settle with a fair market value, there'd be further action past their final decision. So in the end, they gave them fair market value, which would probably have been about the same amount of money as the auction that they were going to have in July. And that just makes me feel good that I was able to help them in that fashion to get the fair market value and not what the insurance company normally would have gave them.
Yeah, that was definitely something I know Tim and his wife greatly appreciated, Fred. And I know we also had other members of the Fiero community that lived close by that were on site, many from one of our affiliated clubs, the Michigan Fiero Club, that traveled there to help as well. So support came in many fashions and yet again shows how wonderful this community is.
Yep. And last I knew, there's a class action suit going against the owners of the dam. So maybe in the future, Tim will be able to get some compensation for the loss of his building. Unfortunately, he did not have flood insurance for the building, and right now he stands as a total loss with no compensation for that. So it was nice to see that Tim got to experience the Fiero community as it is. Most of the Fiero community is very supportive and charitable towards situations like this. So it was a kind of an honor to be able to help him out and take care of his needs.
Absolutely. I'm glad we could be a part of it.
Everyone's heard of Rodney Dickman. Everybody's purchased parts and other things from Rodney Dickman. But did you know he now has brand new undercarriage coolant tubes? Well, let's give a little backstory. The replacement undercar coolant tube story started back in 1984 when the Fiero first hit the streets. Some Fiero owners eventually needed replacement undercar coolant tubes. Many times the problem started at the repair shops. They put the pads under the tubes, and as the car was lifted, it dented and or crushed most of the tubes along as it was being lifted. After they were no longer available from GM, if they even ever were, one could only search for a good one at a junkyard or somebody else who has some of the parts. Good used ones could be found, but if you did, they were too large to ship. The post office, FedEx, UPS wouldn't even ship them, not even Greyhound. Another problem was the undercarriage corrosion under the clamps. A big problem in the 84 to 87 was that they go up and over the front suspension. Even if you put the 84, 87 up on the rack, you still had to maneuver around the front suspension. Sometimes you even had to remove the front suspension. So, Rodney Dickman had been asked many times over the past 20 plus years for replacement coolant tubes. His response was, "I was always told the same thing. Good ones and used ones are out there, but they're too big to ship." So, fast forward to today, and you will still find that good ones are now very difficult to find, and when you find them, still hard to ship. So, the only idea that Rodney Dickman had was he contacted a few Fiero people that have worked on parts and or parted out Fieros. They talked, and all these new undercar coolant tubes, they told him, these tubes are generally never damaged where they bend inward behind the front wheels and go forward. The damage is always along the sides and the back. So, Rodney Dickman developed these repair kits. You can cut your existing tubes and install this 304 stainless steel repair section. So, this thorn in everyone's side now on these coolant replacement tubes is now a thing of the past. To order one, you can visit www.rodneydickmanaccessories.com. Try them out. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. I'm going to throw a question out there, and again, it's just a question. Has there been any talk about the Midwest Fiero clubs not starting maybe not a charity, but making almost maybe like a scholarship, a yearly scholarship to somebody that would be in need of something like that? I mean, is that something that is, you know, the love of the community and the family and stuff like that? Is that something that could be seen down the road?
I think Jen Goss has some input on that.
So twofold. As many people in the community know, my dad, who owned a Fiero since 1985, passed away this past summer. And initially, you know, our plan, and then we're still moving forward with it, is to create a scholarship for a Fiero community member that is going to go off to a tech school or even a 4-year university and further their education. And we thought that could help develop some ties and interests with some of our younger Fiero members. But then in the spirit of the Make 2020 Better project, Gary Pickart suggested a yearly event that's going to take place every October, likely in Dad's Garage in Ole, Pennsylvania, where we're going to give back to somebody in the Fiero community. Hopefully we won't have other members that are afflicted by cancer, but we do know there are people with some struggles, and we're going to look for ways to give back and help those people out, and we're going to make it a yearly event. I don't know that we're going to try and build an entire car and paint it in a weekend again, but we do have some ideas of things that we can do for some people.
It's another expansion of the community feeling that we're trying to instill with the Midwest Fiero Club. And being part of other car clubs, that community feeling is not as strong as with the Fiero people.
Yeah, and wow, I think it was 98 Dell's Run, and I asked my grandfather to go, and he, even though he wasn't part of the Fiero community, we got back, that's all he was talking about is how everybody just opened up their arms and treated him like they were, his in-laws or his family. And even though, like I said, he didn't have a Fiero, they treated him as he did have a Fiero. And that goes back many, many, many years. So I think community and family is a big part of the Midwest Fiero Club. So a couple of years ago, the Midwest Fiero Clubs joined and is now a region of the AACA. We touched a little bit about that a little while ago, but how did that come about, and what was the meaning for the Midwest Fiero Clubs to join the AACA?
Well, it all started with the support of our anniversary shows. And with any large event, you have liabilities and responsibilities that you need some kind of legal backing with. And we had looked at incorporating the Midwest Fiero Clubs as a separate entity where we were protected under an incorporation. And discussing this with other people and so on and so forth, the suggestion came about the possibility of applying to the AACA to be a non-jurisdictional or non-geographical region. And that is where the idea came from. And by joining the AACA, our officers that are members of the AACA are incorporated under the protectionisms of the parent organization.
Are there any, so you bring up a good point about the anniversary shows. Are there any restrictions, or is there anything that if you were to attend the anniversary shows, is there anything that anybody should kind of keep in mind, even if they're not a member of the AACA?
Nope. All participants in our anniversary shows are registered participants, and they're welcomed under our event as the same.
Yeah, interesting. Very cool. And again, I know we touched about it. You can join the AACA if you wanted to through their website.
One thing to note with the AACA is each year they provide each region with 4 free memberships. And we can award those to any new member that is interested in the AACA and the Midwest Fiero Clubs to join for the first year for free.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
You get 4 applications, and it's something that we need to promote within our individual clubs to let people know that there's a trial that they can utilize to try out the AACA and see what it's all about.
And I highly recommend that too. They are a great organization. So the Midwest Fiero Clubs also operates a website and a Facebook page. Let's gonna jump a little bit and go to the website. If somebody were to visit the website, I know it's got fairly long, but Rob, can you kind of touch base on what the website shows people, how it promotes and discusses the Midwest Fiero Clubs?
Sure thing. The website, which was recently moved onto the AACA servers, so we're now part of their system, which is really great. Gives us a great infrastructure that doesn't necessarily exist. Over the years, we've had a lot of different iterations of websites. Our events have been run on different platforms. So we're now trying to kind of bring all those back into one platform, one system. We're actually working hard to recreate some of the old event websites onto the new platform so that we can still go back. People can go back and revisit those event systems that same way. In addition to that, we try to keep an updated list of current events going there, kind of just showcasing the major shows for our clubs around the region, around the country. There are also spaces for articles. There's some bios on some of the members and the board of directors, that type of thing, as well as a great way to kind of shop around for people to connect with their local club as well. So if somebody from Illinois pops on the site and can check out the affiliated clubs, they can then link back to the Northern Illinois club to get hooked up with their local group.
What are some of the events that somebody could find if they wanted to kind of make up a calendar, looking at year to year as far as what shows are available?
Some of the recurring shows that are the most common ones are obviously Dell's Run in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, which is a great draw. A lot of really fun time there. Our Minnesota club has Back to the 80s. There's been a regular show in Davenport for the Fiero Club there, as well as the Northern Illinois Fiero Rama. And as well as some of the other more outlier clubs. Carlisle's been added in there recently as well. Our partners down in Kentucky have an annual cruise that they run. So it's kind of an evolving list. We try to keep that stuff up to date as best as we can. This year's obviously thrown a bit of a wrench into most people's schedules, but there's still stuff going on out there.
Including the Michigan Fiero Club, too.
Yeah.
The Michigan Fiero Club is sometimes active in it and sometimes not, but it's a very interesting club, and I just would hope we can still get those people to put on a show that we can continue to attend next year.
Yep, and looking ahead into the future, that will also be a great place where people can go to find out information about the next major event, as we're starting kind of the early process of looking at the 40th anniversary event. So that'll be a great place for people to kind of get some insight in that in the near future.
Excellent.
I know there's a lot of articles on the website that people can look at too. What are some of the kind of the main highlight ones? I know, Tom, you write some articles for Tom's Corner, but there's a nice John Callie's one as well. What are some of the other things that some people could find on the website that they may not know about?
There can be anything in there from technical information. As you mentioned, Tom had some air conditioning information on there recently. There's been historical articles about the history of the car, the history of Pontiac, connecting with people like John Callie's, even looking at something like we had a model Fiero competition that was kind of showcased on there a little bit. So yeah, a little bit of everything. There's a lot of information floating around out there.
What can we see in the future as far on the website, or kind of what are some of your thoughts on expanding the website?
Some of the things that we're working on right now that will hopefully show up in the near future we are working with creating a original Fiero owners registry. So for people that either originally purchased the car themselves or someone in their immediate family purchased the car originally, we're going to have kind of a special program for that, some recognition there, as well as a registry. We're also working on expanding some of our photo galleries. Everybody loves pictures. We're going to try to get a pretty comprehensive look back at the 35th for sure.
What about any history of the Fiero kind of content?
I don't have anything specific on tap for that, but there is always some of that flowing, certainly with some of the more work that we've been doing with the Pontiac Transportation Museum, as well as the history inherent in the club. Like you mentioned, the experience and the knowledge that's here. We definitely are able to tap into that. Awesome.
Thank you. Shifting now to Facebook and Jason. What kind of things can people find on Facebook about the Midwest Fiero Clubs, and what's the easiest way to get to the Facebook page?
If you're on Facebook, just or even if you don't have a profile, if you just go to Midwest Fiero Clubs It's the full title will be Midwest Fiero Club's Region of the AACA. The most, I'd say, important thing you can get on there is event information. Pretty updated. You know, if an event comes out in a club, whether it's their cruise, anything that they want to share, we share it through our page. And the last production Fiero was just sold, and we shared that. A lot of Fiero history data about the Fiero, interesting old advertisements. We definitely shared the Make 2020 Better event that Mid-Atlantic was put on. Right now we're featuring the Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts. There's a post each week. They're the club of the month this month.
Awesome. So you brought up a good point on events and promoting the events through the Facebook page. Can somebody not part of the Midwest Fiero Club send you an event to post, or is it kind of more strictly based on the events that are happening within the clubs of the Midwest Fiero Clubs?
We'll share any Fiero event. One of the points that's beneficial having this club of clubs, I guess you could say, is we try not to overlap our events so that people can get to each one. But that doesn't mean that we won't share what you've got to share. So definitely just message our page if you have anything you think we might be interested in or you'd like to share, and I'll be back in touch.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What can we see as far as future goes? I know you brought up highlighting the clubs within the Midwest Fiero Clubs. Is it a monthly kind of series, or is it a 1 week and done kind of thing?
What we're doing is so we're on the second club out of all of our clubs right now, and we're going through one club per month, and so there's 3 or 4 posts per month, depending on the information that we have from that club to share.
So if somebody was looking to join a club, this would be the best way to kind of see what each club's about. You guys highlight all the stuff that you know, kind of that the club does, and kind of in essence kind of grow the community more by showing what each club does. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, sharing their events, who their contacts are, the history of maybe how they started.
What does anybody else have anything that they want to say about the Midwest Fiero Clubs, the AACA? I'm curious on what everybody else thinks of how the website and everything looks too.
One comment that I would like to interject is one of the reasons why I supported going with the AACA is making the attempt to bring the Fiero into the larger automotive community and into the larger automotive hobby. And I think we have been successful with that in the aspect that Fiero is starting to get more recognition within the general car community.
I agree with that. Yeah. Because even now when you go to non-Fiero shows, the car is starting to get a lot more respect than it did 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Regarding the Facebook page, be sure and go and like and follow, and make sure you click on see all notifications so you aren't going to miss any of the posts, especially if you've never been there before.
And it's a good way to help build your calendar on Facebook too, so you can know when events are happening as well.
Yeah, you won't miss them.
Are you looking for that special personalized gift for someone? Bontur Solutions can help you find that one-of-a-kind gift. Anything from t-shirts, sweatshirts, drinkware, signs, decorative items, holiday items, and so much more. They can design pretty much anything you want on them, from pictures of your car, your favorite sports team, a pet, or any saying that you want. The list is endless. Minimums are just one of each of any item, and the best thing is, they do not charge a setup fee. You can catch Bontur Solutions at several Fiero and Pontiac events in the area: Fiorama, the Dells Run, the 40th anniversary show coming up in a couple years, and the 2021 Indian Uprising All Pontiac show. So, feel free to visit their website at bontergifts.web.com or give them a call at 847-453-3290. You can also email them at bonnie@bontersolutions.com. We also have promotional item products that they offer as well. That website is bontersolutions.com. In looking at the past and going into the future, picking up the pieces, and one of the biggest topics I want to talk about is the Midwest Fiero Clubs picking up the pieces and filling in those pieces into the puzzle to make a very successful, not one, but 2 anniversary shows. So the 20th and 25th were put on great, and was there just not enough enthusiasm going into a 30th, or when did the Midwest Fiero Clubs decide to jump in and kind of start building the 30th?
Essentially, after the 25th anniversary show, the Michigan Fiero Club had sponsored that solo. And after the show was over with, in talking to the officers of the Michigan Fiero Club, they had indicated that they did not have any interest in continuing in organizing a show of that magnitude. And that is when I brought that subject to the Midwest Fiero Clubs to see what the rest of everybody had to say about it.
Were they surprised that it grew that big?
I don't think it was a surprise. I just think it's the simple aspect that the resources required to put on one of these big events was just overwhelming for the Michigan Fiero Club by themselves. And that was the primary reason why they decided that they would not host another event like that.
Well, I think the community, Fiero community as a whole, is very thankful that the Midwest Fiero Clubs was able to kind of jump in and help and bring the 30th together.
Sure.
Was there a reason moving it out of Michigan and to Indy for the 30th?
Well, it was our primary decision to move out of Michigan to add some variety to the event. The basic theme and organization of the event was very similar, but bringing it to Indianapolis, offered a new venue and new attractions and new things for the participants to see. And the general allure of that mystical place called Indianapolis Motor Speedway attracted many people that I don't think would normally have attended our anniversary events. And it proved to be a very large attendance for that day at the track.
Do you guys plan on rotating every 5 years? So you've gone from Michigan for both the 20th and the 25th, Indy for the 30th, Peoria for the 35th, and Rob touched on it, possibly going back up to Michigan. But do you kind of see that the anniversary shows stay within the Midwest or expand them out a little further?
One of the biggest things to keep in mind with organizing one of these large events is you have a requirement of needing people to be in the general jurisdiction of where the event's going to be held, boots on the ground per se. Without that mechanism in place, it makes organizing an event from afar extremely difficult, especially not knowing the area. So at Current, we try to keep the events in the Midwest due to the fact that's where a bulk of our members and participating clubs are from. But in the future, with an expansion of other organizations joining in with the Midwest Fiero clubs, the possibility of taking it out of the Midwest, is always there. It just all depends on the dedication of that particular group.
What would you say is the average attendance of what I'll say out of towners, which I would say out of towners from the Midwest is?
Well, we definitely attract more people from afar for the big events due to the attractions and particular events that we organize within the larger event. So I would say yes, our attendance from outside of the Midwest is much larger for our anniversary shows.
And I'm going to ask this as far as comments from everybody that attended the 30th. That was my first anniversary show. I was very impressed. It was by far the largest show that I have ever gone to as far as a Fiero owner goes. What are some of your thoughts on the 30th compared to if you went to the 20th and 25th, or if the 30th was your first time at a large Fiero show?
If that's directed at me, the 30th was a turning point, I think, to make the event much more formal than it had been in the past. That event for me was particularly hard because I felt that the rest of the Fiero community hadn't grasped the fact that it takes a lot of resources to put on an event like this, and the amount of volunteerism was a little thin. But when we got to the 35th, it seemed like that whole persona had changed, and it was a much easier show to organize and participate and run.
Well, you also had you had formed a pretty large committee too, and everybody that was on that committee took part in different aspects of what needed to go on to a show. Did you have a committee back in the 30th?
Well, we did in the aspect of the participating clubs had volunteers that had stepped up and said, I'll take care of this task. But it was not to the extent that it did. And it also goes on growing pains of an organization and getting used to what needs to be done to perform the duties of a large event.
And, going and talking about the events and stuff that happened, the big one was the track day at the Indianapolis 500. What was that an easy task to capture as far as getting that event sealed for a day, and your expectations of, are we only going to have 50 cars versus, I think, it was 170 or 160 that participated? Was that a kind of a shock and awe, kind of like, holy cow, this thing is really happening?
Yeah, the organization getting the track to commit to our event was a tough deal. It got to the point where I was making 1 or 2 phone calls a day to see if I could find somebody that would say, yes, you can have a track day at IMS, or no, it's definitely not. And then the scenario came into play that our event was near time that NASCAR used the track for tire testing, and they weren't sure if our event would overlap or interfere with that testing, which naturally would take precedence over the enthusiast club. And it was very nerve-wracking for me to not have a solidified commitment with IMS. And we're trying to promote our event, and it was not until the Thursday before we went on track that we had a signed contract. That was very, very aggravating.
It's cutting it pretty close.
Very close. But in the long run and in the end, that was one of the best days of my life, because seeing all those Fieros, we went early, to meet the track officials and make sure that everybody understood the procedure, and to be the only two Fieros in the parking lot and seeing that wave and flood of Fieros coming up through that gate was just phenomenal. It was just an awe-inspiring moment to see that many cars just packing into that parking lot, and to see all the enthusiasm and all the anticipation of they get to go drive their Fiero out on the Spain racetrack.
I was blown away. That was my first time on a track, and that was actually my first anniversary show too, the 30th. Chase and Jason.
For me personally, as some know, I have pace car number 3, and I had John Callies riding with me. And to be out there on track with the car, with John was just spewing out information like a 12-year-old schoolgirl. It was just awesome to sit there and listen to the stories, because as he's going around the track, things were coming back to him that he had forgotten about. And the stories were just phenomenal. It was just a breathtaking moment. And then to end our track session, I was lucky enough to do a photo shoot with John in the car out front, in front of the pagoda, and that image has been used over and over and over.
Awesome memory there. Anybody else? Any reminiscence of the 30th or?
I think the big difference is Fred kind of alluded to between the 30th and the 35th was the 30th was kind of kind of get your feet wet as far as getting a lay of the land. As a lot of our individual clubs have put on smaller level type car shows. And putting on something that's a multi-day event for on the national arena, you have to kind of step up your game quite a bit. And we succeeded in the 30th event, and I think what we learned from the 30th we put to play in the 35th, and then kind of expanded upon it. And I think it kind of built enthusiasm. It was in a way an experiment to do the 30th. And then, once we got our feet wet and we understood what needed to be done, that's when the 35th really took off, and I'm anticipating the 40th to be even greater than the 35th.
And as I alluded to, the 35th anniversary was a very comfortable event. I think we all were fairly relaxed. We had a great time, and the minor issues that did come up were so easily remedied that it was no stress on any one of us.
When you hold an anniversary show like the 30th and the 35th, and even looking up coming up at the 40th, do a lot of the other shows postpone, or do you guys also host your shows plus the anniversary shows in those given years? And does that make it a little bit more difficult, or were you guys out, or is it just that much more fun to kind of push yourself to kind of get all those the excitement of both shows down?
Well, with me personally, my passion for the Pontiac Fiero just drives everything. I find myself beating myself into the ground to make sure things happen. And hosting a big event and having our local Heartland Fiero car show, it's just in my head that that's going to happen. No compromises. To see the Fieros together and the people and all my friends, it makes it all.
I was gonna say, I see the shows earlier in the season as like momentum builders for the big events. Like, people come to Carlisle and they have so much fun, and we say, "Wow, you think this was fun?" Like, you need to come to the anniversary show in a month and a half or 6 weeks or whatever. And people do that because they had so much fun at a more local show. So I think they really build upon one another.
Yep, I agree.
I'll give you a good example of that. At the Wisconsin Dells run in 2018, we actually put the show on in 2018. And what Fred did was he came over and gave a judging seminar to people that were at that show so that they would get an idea of what the anniversary show was going to be like. And I think that was really important because it gets people around there to look at the cars, the non-stock and the stock cars, and the judging seminar was really a nifty idea, Fred. Congratulations on that. I think that really created a lot of enthusiasm for the 35th anniversary show.
Yeah, I agree. I remember that. He had a very large crowd around him listening and taking a bunch of notes on that, and just kind of things that the judges will be looking at. And so kind of gave you indication of what you would have to maintain or clean or get ready for the 35th. So, Rob, did you guys do your back to the 80s? And Jim, did you guys that same year also hold Fiorama?
Yeah, we put it on. It's a rain or shine, and other events notwithstanding. For the past few years, the Minnesota event has been back to the 80s, which is, although it's run by the Fiero Club as a volunteer organization, it really is targeting a larger group of people. So when it comes to us maybe being distracted or sidelined a little bit by the work of a larger anniversary show, that doesn't slow us down on the local level. So we're full steam ahead on those.
Awesome.
And I think to concur with that, the 35th event was just a few weeks before Fiorama took place, and it was kind of like, okay, switch gears. You spend several months planning out a huge national event, and then you have to kind of focus in on a smaller scale event. So we kind of usually we put quite a bit of effort into Fiorama, and I have to say we took a couple of steps back just because we were so heavily involved with the 35th. That it took place, and then right after that event, and Mike, you can attest to this, to kind of commemorate the event, we decided to put out a special edition of Fiero Focus magazine to commemorate the 35th event, and that. As soon as Fiorama was done, it's like, okay, step 3 is put together this special edition commemorative issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was like almost nonstop Fiero from, probably easily May all the way through mid to late October.
Yeah, I remember that very well. I was...
Wait, the Fiero stops, Jim, in your life? Really?
Take a breather. There was no breathing during that time period.
I think any of us did for a while.
Yeah. Well, that was leading right up into our third daughter's birth, because she came in January of 2019. So I was up. I mean, doing Fiero stuff up until I think the day she was born too. So. Mm-hmm. Does not stop. But it was good. It was good energy. It was positive energy, and it was just nonstop. Which and after a while, you just take a breather. Yep.
One thing to mention was we did a participant survey after the show that Jen Doss had sent out, and the feedback was extremely positive, that everybody had a great time and felt that the event was well worth their time. So it was great that the suggestion to send that survey out was put on the table, and sent it out and got that kind of feedback.
Awesome.
So for us show organizers, that was kind of a feather in our cap to see all that positivity.
Oh yeah, and it's always good to have that positive feedback on a large show as it was. What compared to the 30th, when the main event was not only the show but also Indy, what were some of the events that took place at the 35th, with it being hosted in Peoria. What did some of the Fiero community people that attended get to see?
Well, we started out Thursday evening with a cruise over to a local diner that sponsors a cruise in with the local hot rod club. And that was a good time. Flooded the place with heroes and the other participants over there with their hot rods and classic cars. And gave us a lot of positive feedback and thought it was really neat to see that many heroes in one place. And our Friday event was driving up to Pontiac, Illinois to tour the Pontiac Oakland Museum, and also some of the private collection of Allen. That made for a great day. The weather was beautiful, and it got a chance for our participants to put the cars out on the road for a nice Midwest road trip.
And you guys took 66 down, didn't you?
Yep. The intended route was Route 66 from Peoria to Pontiac. And, the feedback was phenomenal with that, and everybody enjoyed that, especially the out of town.
Yeah, anytime you can head down Route 66, and even just with the line of Fieros, and that's just got to be a sight to see. The 30th
Saturday was our big show that was very successful. That was a no stress event. Things went very smooth. And then culmination was our Saturday night guest speaker night, and the attendance with that was something else. We packed that room, and the guest speakers just captivated the audience, and it was a long night till midnight.
The speakers that you had, compared to previous anniversary shows, who have you had? And again, kind of going back to the 20th and the 25th, what's the history of I'll call them celebrities to the Fiero community, have been at the anniversary shows, and what have some of their comments been as far as the show itself or the community?
Okay, but the cool thing about the guest speaker nights is after these guys, they were involved in the Fiero to build the car, engineer it, market it, and finance, you name it. And after these guys spend time with us Fiero guys and people, they get a sense of the community that we have, and the tight-knit community that we have, and how friendly people are. And they are just blown away by the aspect that all these years later, their car that they brought to creation has formed this community of people that are so nice and receptive. And it's an honor for them to know that, 35 years later, that we still have a large respect for their work.
Would you consider it's hard to get them to these anniversary shows, or is it something that if they've gone multiple times, they're like, yeah, count me in. I'd love to come see everybody again?
Yeah. What we found is the word of mouth communication between the former employees spread pretty quick when they go through a positive interaction like that. With that in note, our next anniversary show, if the plans do go as intended, we are going to have a very large guest speaker night, or day per se, just due to the fact that everybody's talking about it within the Pontiac Alumni Association.
So there you go. Start booking your 40th anniversary plans now. Looking into the future of the 40th, do you plan on making this show bigger and better than the 35th?
Why wouldn't we? There's nothing but up. Building on the fact that the 35th was so successful, and a majority if not more, of the people that made that such a success are still involved. We've built on what we've learned over the past, and it's a good opportunity to expand our capabilities and provide a bigger and better show.
Do you expect the attendance to be astronomical now that that we're seeing the Fiero community start getting more into the younger ages?
You would like to think, but the trend is that our events are getting smaller. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that attrition just due to the fact that there are less mosquitoes on the road and available. But I think the quality of the event is going to attract more people.
Yeah, the 40th is going to be the 40th is going to be the one to go to if you want to see prototypes and rare cars you didn't get to see at the 30th and the 35th, even more than you saw there.
Yeah, and which kind of brings me to my next question is, has the Midwest Fiero Clubs, you know, we're coming up almost two and a half years out, 2023. Have you guys already started kind of scouting and kind of looking at possibilities of where the 40th will be held?
Well, we did a scouting trip to Pontiac, Michigan to look at the M1 concourse, and we looked at the hotel, revisited the hotel that we had the 20th and the 25th at, and we also toured the soon-to-be opening Pontiac Transportation Museum as a possible venue. And in our scouting meeting, I think the overwhelming response was we need to pursue it. So currently we are looking into date compatibility and finding out if we can get the venues in the fashion that we expect to use them. And that will also include the Heritage Center, the GM Heritage Center.
That's some great news there. Again,
one aspect we're looking at is the city of Detroit and Pontiac area should be able to provide enough automotive related events that we can have a full event, plenty of automotive stimulation.
I was going to say that's the place to be, because I mean you could spend a week or even more there just seeing everything that's up in that area.
Definitely.
And rumor has it the last Pontiac ever built in Pontiac will be present at this show.
That's even better. Again,
Cool.
going off of Jason's comments of, if you want to see those rare Fieros or prototypes, that this is the time to see them. So when would you start getting like really in depth of getting everything planned? So again, we're about 2 years out. Have you guys already started already, or not? You won't really start getting into it till sometime in the next year or so.
Well, like I said, right now we're working on date compatibility and determination if we can actually afford the amenities that we're proposing. And that's what we're at right now.
Awesome. All right. So, any other thoughts on the 30th or 35th from anybody? Before I would Larkin and Christina. Obviously, the 40th will be your first anniversary show. Are you guys looking forward to that?
We've both been to the 35th.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it because the 35th was one of the best experiences I've had at a Fiero show.
Did you participate in all the events, and what were your thoughts on those?
At the 35th, I think I got there on like Thursday or Friday, so I missed the first few events, but I think I participated in a few, and it was fun. And I remember going to the Pontiac Museum. That was a lot of fun.
How about
I
you, Larkin?
personally really enjoyed just like sitting in the hotel parking lot, after it was all, you know, um, quieted down, and that's how I got to know Christina and got to put names with faces. That was the first time I met Tom Harding, and I'd been talking with Tom Harding for a year or two even before that. So, believe it or not, actually, Christina and I are like really, really close friends. And that was the first time I met Christina. And I'm going to be getting married in a year, and she's even in my wedding. So,
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
thank you. When it comes to Fieros, when people say it's it's more than just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. Like, I mean, I live it because my best friend is Christina, and she's literally gonna be one of in one of the biggest days of my life. So
Very cool. Would you guys say, or would you guys feel that the anniversary show that you guys attended is overwhelming or very at ease compared to the size of it than a local show?
for the size and the turnout of the event, it was something like no other show I've ever seen in person. Didn't really seem real, when you first roll up and you see a whole entire parking lot filled with so many Fieros at once, and there's so many different colors and so many different people, and like from all over the world, not just the country, but all over the world. So at first it was a little overwhelming for me because I'd never been to an event like that. However, within just a few minutes, I felt really comfortable being there, being able to just, talk to everybody and feel like, I'm part of that community, even though my car, especially at that point, wasn't really show worthy, and I was a non-judge just because I didn't feel my car was, adequate enough to be judged. But regardless of that, I still felt like, everybody welcomed me a lot, and it really, as a 18-year-old guy that went 6 hours by himself, for the first time ever, I felt really okay with it.
Well, that's great, and thank you for attending too, because the 35th changed your life. It looks like too, so that's
yeah.
great.
Yep, and if I wouldn't have never went there, I would have never got to go to Pennsylvania. Would have never seen the ocean when we went out that way with myself, Christina, and Ryan when we all met out there at the 35th. So, gotten a lot of travel opportunities and built a lot of friendships and relationships just because of one event weekend that I never would have thought would make that big of an impact.
So you're looking forward to the 40th then too, to kind of start going
I
up
don't
north.
care where it's going to be or what date it's going to be. All I know is I'm going to be there.
That's great. That's great to hear. Thank you.
I think that brings up a very important point that, the purpose of the events is not just to compete, your car against another car. It doesn't matter whether you have a Fiero that you trailer in. It doesn't matter whether you have a Fiero that's something that's your daily drive. It just matters that you participate, and that's something that's very strong within the Fiero community. And I know Fred mentioned this previously. The outsiders that get involved with the Fiero community, all of our guest speakers, the people that built the cars, the people that designed the cars, I think that they're most impressed with the fact that the real core of the group is the people. It's the car that brings us together, but it's the people that keep us together. It's the friendships that we build. I mean, I have people across the U.S. that I have got to meet just because of this little car, and I think Hulky really is impressed by the fact that some car that he created that was a vision in his head has turned into friendships and relationships that network across the U.S. and network even across the world. And I think that's the most impressive part about it.
Yeah, great words there.
The positivity that Hulky expressed after spending time with the Fiero people, was was awe-inspiring because he said, "You guys have got it right, and keep up the good work, and keep up the camaraderie that you have within your Fiero group." And just hearing that from him is enough motivation for me to keep going.
Yeah,
It took
and
a lot of effort on his part to make this all happen. It
yeah,
wasn't for Oki fighting GM corporate to get the car produced, we may never have met each other within the Fiero community without the car.
yeah, and I mean, it would have been great to be a fly on the wall when he designed it, and then just to, you know, be another fly on the wall when he saw how the community just comes together with the cars. But going back off to one of Jim's comments of pulling together, at the 35th, there was a gentleman that broke down. I want to say it was probably about an hour and a half outside of Peoria or so, maybe an hour.
He was,
But
an hour away.
yeah, and everybody came together, and you know, I think Jen, was that you guys that rescued him? You
Yep, Paul and I went and grabbed him.
Yeah, hooked up your trailer and drove up, picked him up, and brought him to the show. And I think at that point he was just like, I just want to go home. But you know, you guys got him to the show, and he was able to get it repaired, I think, a couple days after the show and go home. But that's meaningful, you know. Again, helping somebody that is in need. So
It definitely makes a difference.
yeah.
I'll give you a good example of that, you guys. That same thing, exact same thing happened to me at the 30th. My car broke down just south of Indianapolis or north of Indianapolis, and Mark Nicholas and his father-in-law came with a trailer, picked up my car so we could get it over to the show. And Tim Cibula from Minnesota diagnosed what the problem was, made the car ready to go for the show the next day. Unbelievable. That's what that means when you have a community like the Fiero community.
Mm-hmm. We know how hard it is to find Fiero parts. We also know that as years go by, finding parts isn't going to get any easier. The big box stores will never make new Fiero parts because our community is just too small. This is why we need to support the companies that support us. For nearly 30 years, the Fiero store has sponsored our club events, provided free technical support, and produced well over 150 exclusive parts that no big box store would even consider. So, next time you need Fiero parts, head over to thefierostore.com and browse through thousands of products that are specifically designed for your Fiero. That's fierostore.com, the world's largest source of Fiero parts. All right. Let's start wrapping up here, and again, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Where do you guys see the Midwest Fiero clubs going in the future? Do you see it growing with more clubs, or more help within this supporting the Fiero community, or a standalone club? I know some people think that the Midwest Fiero clubs is a standalone club.
Well, being that we've committed to being a region of the AACA, we're not necessarily a standalone club anymore. We're part of the bigger group now. We're recognized with one of the largest antique automobile organizations in the world. So the standalone part of it, not necessarily anymore. Definitely the intention is to expand it, to bring in as many Fiero people and clubs as possible that want to join in, to expand it past our normal Midwest borders that we've traditionally had.
That's actually correct. I was just going to mention that, only to bring that to a point, the word clubs with a S on the end of it is what makes it go.
Who's currently part of the Midwest Fiero clubs, just I know we haven't talked about that, but we can. What are some of the clubs if somebody's looking to be a part of the Midwest Fiero clubs? What are some of the clubs that are a part?
Well, I think Rob touched on it when we were talking about the website as to the clubs that are currently sponsoring the Midwest Fiero clubs. He's got that list right on the front of the website.
Yeah,
Yep.
we do have a list of affiliated clubs. I'll just rattle them off down the line here. Heartland Fieros in Iowa, Kansas City Fiero Owners Group in Kansas City, Michigan Fiero Club, Mid-America Fieros in Kentucky and Southern Indiana, Mid-Atlantic Fieros Association, Midwest Fieros of Omaha, Minnesota Fieros Forever, the Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts, and the Wisconsin Fiero Fanatics.
So yeah, there's many ways that somebody can be part of the Midwest Fiero clubs. Just joining a local affiliate or getting involved with a local affiliate. So that's a pretty impressive list of the clubs that are involved. So yeah. Any final thoughts? Anybody, as far as Midwest clubs or your organizations, what we have to look forward to in 2021?
Yeah, I have a little thing to add here for the end. Just since I'm, one of the younger people involved in Fieros, and I'd like to say that, not calling you guys all old and everything, but eventually, you guys are gonna, start phasing out a little bit, and we need a strong support coming up from, like my generation and maybe even a little older, or in the next coming years, a few, maybe even a little younger, so we can keep, the excitement alive and keep pushing forward for the future to, keep everybody enthusiastic about an extremely innovative car that, broke huge barriers in the automotive industry going on, 35 years, 40 years, So if there's anybody, out there that's, young and thinking about getting involved in a local club or the Midwest Fiero clubs and as a whole, I think now is a really good time to do that.
Great point.
Mm-hmm.
And Larkin, it's it's great to have younger people like you joining our group, so you can bring us fresh ideas that keeps our clubs relevant to the younger people, so that we can attract more younger people in, and keep, like you said, keep the excitement alive.
It's a great point, Mark. Exactly.
Yep, I do everything I can to encourage young participation, especially with the assistance of keeping the cars running. That's a big point. Cars running, the interest kind of.
If anybody has any questions of what club maybe is in their area or what they could do to help if they like what they heard, feel free to message our Facebook page.
Yeah, there's a massive amount of information that this group has, not only on paper but in their head. And even if you're looking for some technical advice, pick these guys' brains. They'll get those cars up and running for you. And it's just something that, again, it's a very wide range community from the young to the older, but there's a lot of knowledge in this Midwest Fiero group's heads. So, all right. So if nobody's got any more final thoughts, then
Thank you for having us on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Night, guys.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you guys again. Have a good night.
Happy travels.
Wow. That was a great informational piece on the Midwest Fiero clubs, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of FieroCast, and I hope you learned a lot about what the Midwest Fiero clubs can do for you and how they operate and bring the Fiero community together. And that's the big one right there, is bringing the Fiero community together, not only at the anniversary shows, but in the way they support the Fiero owners and the community, and even bringing two friends together at an anniversary show, and just amazing on this organization. And they've been around for a long time, since 2004. So again, thank you everyone for being a guest on today's show. It was very informational. You can find, again, if you want any information on the Midwest Fiero Clubs, it's midwestfieroclubs.aaca.com. And you can also find them on Facebook as well. So again, thank you for listening. And if you guys have any information or ideas on future casts that you'd like me to talk about, you can contact me at mkroyer@fierofocus.com. But for now, so long, good night, thank you, and keep Fiero.